The State of Origin deciders on tonight. Big game. But that does remind me. I thought the job of the National Rugby League was just to help people play the game. But under Chairman Peter Beattie, the former Labor Premier of Queensland, the NRL is not about playing rugby league, but playing politics. Left-wing politics. Worse, identity politics of the kind that even the Morrison government today signalled it now wants to play as well. But to this Peter Beattie, NRL chairman, he's already backed one brand of identity politics, the rainbow brand, by telling superstar Israel Folau, a Christian, he is not welcome to play in the NRL after quoting on his Instagram account what the Bible said would happen to gays when they die.
We believe in inclusiveness, and that inclusiveness policy would prevent Israel Folau from becoming a registered player in rugby league. That's final.
And then Peter Beattie said his NRL was supportive of another identity group, race activists. Race activists on NRL teams who refuse to sing our national anthem.
They've indicated they won't sing, and frankly, look, we're supportive of them. We respect people's right to have a different view, to be frank.
Well, not quite. The NRL respects people's right to have a different view, but not if they're a Christian like Israel Folau. That doesn't apply. But now Peter Beattie has made his biggest political play as NRL chairman, a play totally unrelated to the sport that is meant to run. He's now released the video to say that NRL backs the Uluru Statement, a call by Aboriginal activists for an Aboriginal-only parliament, an advisory one, and treaties and all sorts of things.
We represent the rugby league community.
From the grassroots
to the elite.
Together, we make this response to the Uluru Statement from the heart.
We walk together in a movement.
Of all Australian people for a better future.
We recognise the Uluru Statement from the heart
as an historic mandate to create a fuller expression of Australia's nationhood.
We support the call for the establishment of a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution.
And for a referendum to amend the Constitution accordingly.
We support the call for a Makarrata Commission.
To supervise a process of agreement making between government and First Nations.
Unbelievable. Changes to our Constitution, a voice which most interpret as a race-based parliament, treaties between Aborigines and non-Aborigines. How divisive. But could Peter Beattie please explain why any of that political agenda is the NRL's business? Isn't the NRL there to run a sport and not wreck a nation, not bring in apartheid? But something about identity politics, you know, it just makes smart people forget what their job really is. See how Qantas, an airline, branched out to run a same-sex marriage campaign. Or look at the latest madness from the Queensland government, which scrapped its mining safety committee for not having enough women. And be clear about that particular idiocy. That committee was scrapped not because it didn't give good advice on keeping miners alive, but because only one of the committee members giving that really good advice was wearing a skirt, and that was clearly not enough. So for 4 months, this committee did not meet, and more Queensland miners died. It's hard to think of a more unbelievable story so far this year. But speaking of idiocy, can anyone go past, in terms of the effect on the country, what the Morrison government's new Indigenous Australians Minister, Ken Wyatt, said today? Australia said to change its constitution 3 years from now, he hoped. And he does not rule out including in that change this same Aboriginal-only parliament that the NRL wants.
When you say that, are you talking about a body that would advise the federal parliament?
Well, yes, I am. I'd rather see us have a structure in which we influence government's thinking.
How would it be formulated? Are we talking necessarily elected or not?
That I want to work through.
Now, to hear Ken Wyatt say that we must finally give Aborigines a voice in politics requires a suspension of eyesight. You see, Wyatt himself identifies as Aboriginal. What's more, he's a politician. And around him in our national parliament are 4 other politicians who identify as Aboriginal, plus others who got there with the help of Aboriginal voters. So is Ken Wyatt not walking and talking evidence that Aborigines already have that voice in politics? And that voice is actually called a vote. And every Australian adult has one. Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal, black, white, Asian, whatever. That vote is the common thing that we share that defines us as Australian, wherever we're from and whenever we got here. So don't be fooled about Wyatt and, it seems, his boss, Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Don't be fooled that all they want is some sort of voice for Aborigines. They are flirting with something much more, an Aboriginal-only advisory parliament that will give Aborigines more political say under our constitution than is given to any other tribe in this country. Chinese, Muslim, Italian, Greek, Sudanese, they don't have one. An advisory parliament is what they want that will inevitably have some sort of veto power over the parliament of the rest of us. And then watch out. When one race of Australians gets handed more power over the rest, other Australians will obviously want to start identifying with their own so-called race to defend their interests. Awful. So, at its heart, this plan, pushed by the government, pushed by the NRL, is, in my opinion, to smuggle the start of apartheid into Australia's constitution, to formally divide Australians by race, not just by status, political status. Now, we've got to call time on this kind of ridiculous identity politics. I mean, who cares if a mine safety expert is a woman or a man? Who cares if a rugby superstar is a Christian or a gay? Who cares if someone in Parliament has Aboriginal ancestors or none? Just ask instead whether they're just doing a good job. A good person doing a good job. All you need to know. Or maybe what you need to know is whether they've gone mad with identity politics and division.